Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGameLLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Today we're going to be taking a look at Chronicles of Drunagor, Age of Darkness by Daniel Alves and Yuriko Kunha, published by Creative Game Studios. Now this is the Kickstarter all-in edition, including extra dice, everything is sleeved, and this is going to include all of the extra adventures as well as the stretch goals, fully sleeved, everything in the boxes here. Now, I do want to preface this at the beginning that this game is not going to all be contained in the base box. The game employs lots of these game trays, and these game trays just frankly aren't going to fit very well. A lot of them are awkwardly shaped, they don't really work well together, so you will have to incorporate a lot of the additional boxes to store everything appropriately and efficiently. So that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the game. So in the core box here, we're going to lift it up, and this core box has no lid lift. But we're going to lift off this main box here, and inside we'll see, on the right, we have the rulebook, one of the campaign sheets, the player aid, the adventure book, and the interactions book. And that's all going to be on the right side. Now underneath that, we're going to have all of the upgraded player trays. So after playing the game a couple of times, I've realized that I really enjoy this style of player tray instead of the other that's offered. So the exclusives include larger player boards, but I honestly found that they were a bit of a nuisance. I prefer using these. I really like the way these are laid out, the way the cubes slot in nicely, and how everything's a lot more compact and tight without giving up really a lot of that artwork. So I prefer these. You can fit all 5 nicely underneath those books. The next layer is going to be made up of these player trays. Now, you're not going to need all of them. You're going to have 2 that are not even going to be in here. So just don't worry about that. But you're going to have 4 that line this inner box. So first off, we have this one. It's going to just contain some of the character cards. As you can see here, you've got just different classes, and these do include the classes from the expansions because you can multi-class in this. So having the options available and knowing which well to get is pretty straightforward. There's also room in the center there to put your additional dice. In the bottom right here, you have more of those multi-class options in addition to extra dice. So you've got all your different classes, mage, bard, monk, and then underneath this one, we got our barbarian, paladin, and then we have our additional cards for the allies. So that's all on this section here. This one here is just going to have more of those classes, the abilities for the classes, and then another die. This does include that extra dice set, so it's going to be kind of sporadically thrown out because you aren't going to need them all. In this section here, this one is a little bit different. We've got our 2 dice in here, as well as on the right side, we're going to put all of your character options. So these are all the initiative cards for the different characters. And then underneath, you have all of your different roles based on which initiative position you want to be in. So you got controller, defender, and their upgraded cards as well. And that's on the right side of this well. So this well, you'll probably be opening every time. And then you also have any current items that your characters are using or any rewards that you've earned from the campaign. You have your different cards for leveling up and your rune cards, as well as any starting equipment and items underneath here. So these are going to be on the left and right side. In this next area over here, we're going to have the bag of runes. So all of your rune tokens can just go straight into this bag because you will be pulling from this bag when you're asked to pull for runes. So you can just leave them in there. We've got our bridge piece, a pencil for marking on our campaign sheet. We have the camp and damage board, the undead king board, as well as another board here in case you have more minions. And then we have all the different character options. And like I said, I vastly prefer this sheet as opposed to the others. I think it's a lot tighter, and I like the way that it's all laid out on this one. In conjunction with the boards, it works really nicely. So you're going to put all of the different character sheets in there. Under that, you're going to have the campaign sheets. And then you get into everything else. So this box is full of organizers, and I do like a lot of the organizers in here. Let's start off with one that I really like, and this is the darkness organizer. So right off the bat, you're going to notice that we have lots of these tiles here. You're going to have the rectangular as well as the square tiles, and they fit nicely into the grooves in here. And if you pop the top off, you'll see underneath that we have all of the darkness tiles organized. Now, when you open the box initially, in this section, you are not going to have enough room to put all of the square tiles, so we'll store the rest of them somewhere else. But this is going to hold all of your pieces nicely. Some of these are a little bit more snug than you'd like, but that is how this organizer works. On the right side here, we have more of the map tiles. We have the square map tiles. We have another smaller bridge, as well as the 1x3 tiles and the 2x1 tiles. And they all place nicely on top here. Underneath here, you're going to have all of your tokens organized. So this game comes with a bunch of tokens, as you're going to see here. Now, the best way that I found to organize them is to organize them by color. So as you can see here, you can see, okay, we got all the blues there, pinks, orange, reds. I kind of went the rainbow spectrum here. And then on the top here, we have our large tokens that do not include the runes. So you have these ones that are specific to colors. We have our +60, +30. We have our trap die. We've got our initiative marker, these specific markers. So basically anything that has a single token I put in this section. And then you also have your spawn tokens up here. So we've got lots of different options up here, but mainly the big issue was make sure you get your one-ofs, your unique tokens in here so they're a little bit easier to find. And that's that. Now, one thing to mention with this organizer in particular, this large area down here is very fickle. You are not going to be able to hold everything exactly flat and straight when you store it. So notice how these are kind of slanted to the sides. You will need to do that in order to get everything to fit. So don't be afraid, don't be discouraged. In practice, this thing does work pretty well. So that's all in that container. Underneath, we have this main area for miniatures and heroes. So we've got a couple of heroes on the right here. And then we have different wells for all of the different action cubes and curse cubes. So that's all going to be in this main section here. Underneath that, we have the different dungeon trays for the 3D dungeons. On this large tray, you're actually going to store the large rectangular boards, and they fit nicely on top of it. So that's just going to go right on top. Underneath that, we have the rest of the 3D dungeon trays. We've got the standard 2x3s, as well as the elevated 2x3s. And those are going to rest on top of each other. Up next, we have all the miniatures that just come in the game box. We're going to leave them where they're at. You're not going to necessarily need them all the time, so they're fine to stay down there. And then you also have your doors. So in this bottom section, you're going to have the doors for the different missions. They open up pretty cool like. Pretty awesome. So those are going to fit nicely in here, and that's all from the base box, essentially. Is all going to be able to get squished nice and tight in there. And that is everything that is stored in the core box. So without further ado, let's go ahead and wrap this one up. So first off, we put the 3D components in there. We'll put the larger component board in the center. We're going to put this large dungeon tray on top. We're going to put the token tray on top of that. We're going to put the large Tetris piece next. Large darkness tray, I should say. Not Tetris pieces. They do look like Tetris pieces, though. And then we'll go with the cards. So these three go like this. This one here, our campaign log, our camp and our character sheets, our rune bag, our pencil. And then we're going to put all the rule books. This way. All the rulebooks and the player trays on top of that. And that's everything in the core box for Chronicles of Drunagor. Now the last big thing that you're going to want to be using is the Kickstarter exclusives box. And this is called Spoils of War. In this box, we're going to be storing a couple of things. So first off, we have the initiative markers. So for the tracking all your initiative cards. We have one of the boxes from the core game. This is going to contain the epic loot, as well as additional characters that don't have space in any of the other containers. We also have a tray that's going to contain all of your enemy cards, your loot cards, as well as treasure chest tokens and additional heroes. Now these two heroes in particular, if you put the monsters on the side here, you're going to have room for these two exact heroes in here. They fit nicely and well protected inside. That way you have room for your other heroes in all the other spaces. That way you don't have to go into your expansion boxes to pick a different hero to use. In this well, you're going to have all of your different monsters. All your different monsters in there. And then in the left well, you're going to have your boss cards for the big guy, as well as the demon lord, and then your loot cards. That's all going to fit nicely there. Up next, we just have more options when it comes to heroes. We have the white cubes. Once again, we're not going to use those because we're not using that upgraded board. You have these life counters, which are super nice. We've got our extra square tokens in here, as well as the remaining miniatures. And then underneath, we have additional cards, and these are specifically the items. So in here, we have them separated by type. So you got your 1 and your 2 stars, and then your 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. So these are for your rewards for completing the missions, as well as the bases for the different characters. So they fit nicely in this larger well. So just kind of place them as you can see there. And that is everything in the stretch goals box. So you're going to need those 2 boxes to play every time. So let's go ahead and put these away. So we got that, we got that. Those 2 larger trays. We've got the smaller tray. Now this tray is from the Hellscar Desert expansion, so you will need to take that out of there. It's the lid, and then the initiative tracks. And that is the Spoils of War box. Now once again, this is pretty much all the stuff you're going to need for a base game of Chronicles of Drunagor. If you want to incorporate the expansions, luckily you can just pull the adventure pack, pull the map tiles and whatnot out of it, incorporate it into like a little side quest, and then put them back in the box they came from. So you don't necessarily need to have these small mini adventures in the core box. So that's what I would recommend. Now, without further ado, that is everything in Chronicles of Drunagor. That's how we store it here at the Side Game Library. I like the way we have it set up. We're able to get into the combat very quickly, easy to start, but you still have all those choices of all the characters. You do have to give up some of the flexibility of the monsters, because if you do want to use specifics, you will need to store them in their own separate boxes, right? Because these Game Trayz are very awkward. But if you have any questions about what you saw here, please let me know down in the comments below. I hope some of you found this useful. I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel. It really helps us grow. But thank you so much for watching. Side Game Strong.